After Indiana football just embarrassed Illinois on Saturday night in Bloomington, the Hoosiers proved that they absolutely are a college football playoff team.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, and it is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. Well, thank you so much for being here. Happy Monday, everybody. I know you're feeling good if you're an Indiana fan, and we're happy that you're here with us on Locked On Hoosiers. Later on in the episode, we're going to talk a little basketball as Indiana picks up a big-time commitment, but in the 2027 class. Still really good. We'll talk about him and why he's important. Plus, Saturday was just special. We'll talk about that and just kind of get a little soppy for a minute and talk about just how important that day was. But Indiana, after what you did to Illinois on Saturday against a top 10 team, the big bad Fighting Illini, Brett Bielema, right? That defense, Luke Altmaier, the whole gang was there, right? This unbeatable force that everybody talked about. Everybody wanted to pick Illinois. Everybody did pick Illinois, but we were confident. We felt good about Indiana's chances here, and it was going to be a tough game. It was going to be an uphill battle, but Indiana clearly showed not only were they ready, not only were they prepared, they flat out showed that they were the better team here, and they showed that they're a college football playoff team right now through 4 weeks of the season. So much so that our friends at FanDuel have Indiana, as of right now, with the fourth best odds to make it to the college football playoff in the Big Ten. Of course, it's Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon, and then there's Indiana at plus 180. Those are pretty good odds for those of you that are in the betting world. That means the Hoosiers are right there, and you're knocking on the door. And if Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon all kind of beat up on themselves because Penn State and Oregon play this weekend. I know that. And then Ohio State, Penn State, do they play this year? I think they do. And then, of course, Indiana plays Oregon and Penn State. So everybody's going to kind of beat up on each other. But if it can all kind of balance itself out, right? Indiana's got a really good chance to make it to the college football playoff, even as the fourth team in the conference. Because what you did for yourself, if you're Indiana, there's two conversations I want to have with you today. There's the conversation that Indiana's resume could get them to the college football playoff by the end, and Indiana's performance could get them to the college football playoff by the end. If you're talking right now, if you're talking, hey, college football playoff selection is tonight, they're getting together in a room, and they're picking the 12 best teams in the country. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Indiana would be in it. You have one of the best wins in college football to this point, other than what? Ohio State over Texas, which that's not even looking all that good right now, and LSU's win over Clemson in the opener, which really ain't looking that good right now. I'll say it. I think Indiana's got the best win in college football. Sure, it was at home in Bloomington, but who else has done that to a team like that? Who else has beat a top 10 team 63-10 on the national stage where everybody in the country was watching? Who else has done that? I don't think so. I don't think anybody has. Not by my account, not that I can remember. And so if it happened today, yeah, Indiana proved with their play on the field that they're a college football playoff team, but of course with their resume as well. And to all the people that doubted this Indiana squad, I hope that you have apologized to the people that you told and the people that you talked to, and in the way that you spoke about Curt Cignetti and Indiana, because you wanted it so bad to be the fallback year. You wanted this to be the step back. You wanted Indiana to go back to being a bad football program. That's just not going to happen. And Curt Cignetti proved that on Saturday night. He proved how good of a coach he is in getting his team ready to play. He proved how good of a coach he is in game and making some slight adjustments. And then when he puts his foot on your throat, he ain't taking it off. Doesn't matter who you are, whether it's Indiana State or whether it's Illinois, whether it's a team that just started playing football yesterday or if it's a top 10 team in the country. Curt Cignetti is that dude. And Indiana football's not going anywhere while he's at the helm. And so your aspirations now, if you're Indiana, are absolutely to make the college football playoffs. There were us that were hopeful for that in the beginning of the year, right? Saying it would be great, but that's probably a tall ask, at least to start the season. And even through the first 3 games, it was like, well, you know, we looked okay against Old Dominion, looked better against Kennesaw State, looked good against Indiana State, but it's the Sycamores of Indiana State. We just didn't know what a true measuring stick was going to be for this year's team. But Saturday was it, man. Saturday showed you exactly what this team is capable of. And I think it's making it to the college football playoff. Not only do you have the 4th best odds out of the Big Ten to make it to the college football playoff, folks, FanDuel says we have the 15th best odds in the country to win the college football playoff. The 15th best odds to win the college football playoff. USC is right in front of us. Missouri is right behind us. Other teams in the Big Ten, I mentioned USC, Oregon, and Penn State, and Ohio State in that order, working your way up. And so the Hoosiers are in the conversation, and they absolutely should be. They have earned that respect from you as a doubter, or you as a fan, or you as a pundit, or a journalist, or an expert, or whoever you are. Indiana doubted or shut up all the doubters. Now, there's a lot to play. There's a lot of games left, and there's still a lot more to prove. But Saturday, you proved as Indiana that you belong right back in the college football playoff, and you've got a chance to do that because that is your expectations now. Curt Cignetti and this team have set the bar again in 2025, and you now are pushing for that. You've got plenty of games that you can take care of business. You've got 2 big games now where you've got a chance to do it again and shock the world. That's what the Hoosiers did. That's the statement that Indiana made on Saturday night in Bloomington. And I can't wait. And I hope that that is the expectation. And I hope that Curt Cignetti and his staff keep that standard in the building. I hope the fans keep that standard on the outside. And I promise you that we are going to keep that standard here on Locked On Hoosiers because I believe this team is good enough. I told you last year that, or I told you this offseason, that this year's team is more talented than last year's team. And I think Saturday night's 63-10 win over Illinois showed that that's absolutely true. And they have a chance to be just as good, if not better, than last year's team by making it to the college football playoff and maybe making even a run as well. All right, coming up here, Locked On Hoosiers, we're going to keep it on football, but we're just going to talk about Saturday. We're going to get a little, I don't know, soppy or whatever you want to call it, because Saturday was just so awesome. We'll talk a little bit about the game and the atmosphere and just why it was so special, why it meant so much to big-time Indiana people. We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by the Game Cap. Man, I tell you what, I hate that today I'm not wearing a game cap. I hate that I'm not doing it. I hate that I'm not wearing that Illinois blue and orange and white hat that I did buy on the game cap, by the way. But when Indiana won, Sonny has to now wear a Hoosiers hat. And he should have it on Monday, on today. I'm going to go check. I'm going to go look, and I need your help to do so. But he's going to have one. I don't know if he's wearing this one in particular, but this Hoosiers game cap is legit, okay? They've got the coolest styles, the coolest colors, everything you could possibly want. And so be sure to go and check them out with the game. All right, they're not just hats. They're the same vintage styles the fans wore back in the 80s and 90s. And guess what? Right now, you can still get them for that same great price that you did back then. If you use the code LOCKEDON right now, you can get a vintage hat, this one, right here that I'm holding in my hand for those of you on YouTube for $16.99. All you got to do is use the code locked on and they're going to get you one. Okay. Head to thegamecaps.com, thegamecaps.com. Grab your team's classic bar to retro circle design and use the code locked on for an exclusive discount because legends wear the game. All right, welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here, making this your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. And yeah, man, look, I got my headphones on, I got my hair up today. I'm chilling, man. I ain't got to wear nothing that's blue and orange this week for the Fighting Illini. And hopefully our boy Sonny Verma's holding up his end of the deal. And Spencer McLaughlin. We got to go check both shows today to make sure that they're holding up their end of the bargain. All good fun with those guys, man. Again, be nice, be kind, say nice things to people, especially those on the Illinois side, because it was a lot of clean fun building up to last week. And man, that's what just made Saturday so special. I mean, look, there's been big games in Indiana history, right? There's been some big football games, and they've been spread out, unfortunately, across the history of the program. One here, one there over the next 10 years, one here over the last 8 years. Like, you've had big games. But I really can't remember a game like Indiana and Illinois and the hype that it got, the national attention that it got, and then just the pure execution that you got from this Indiana team. I mentioned on our live show on Saturday, which, by the way, thank you all to whoever and all of you that showed up for that. I mean, we were 350 strong for almost an hour long. So thank you so much for doing that. We're going to try and go live after every game this season and as many basketball games as we can. So if you're on the YouTube side or if you want to be a part of the YouTube side of things, just be sure you look it up, Locked On Hoosiers. And we have our live show. You can go back and watch it if you want to. Again, I think we went like 50 something minutes because we were just having so much fun. Read a bunch of your comments, ton of engagement, man. We had a lot of fun. And that I said on that show that I wanted the game to be close. I wanted that to be a 4-quarter game. I wanted to see what Indiana's response was if they got punched in the mouth, right? If they were the ones that got scored on a block punt return for a touchdown, right? And the Hoosiers were down 7-0. How would Indiana respond? Or if they were down in the fourth quarter and Fernando Mendoza had to lead a game-winning drive, right? How would Indiana respond? Or could Indiana overcome turnovers or penalties? Or would the crowd be a big factor in this game? And man, none of that just ended up being true, which is a good problem to have, right? That's a good thing because Indiana did block a punt and return it for a touchdown. Sure, Illinois had a big touchdown strike on a miscommunication, and then Indiana came right back and never looked back, right? The crowd was a huge factor in this game until about the halftime show, right? And at that point, Indiana never really got punched in the mouth. You never really had to respond. You had one response drive. You proved it. You did it, right? You drove right down the field and did it in every way possible. But you didn't have to do a ton of stress football on Saturday. But I think that's what almost made it so special. It was so fulfilling to me. And hopefully you felt that way too. And hopefully some of you long time, but much more older than me, long time Indiana fans got some satisfaction on Saturday, got some fulfillment in this game, whether you were at the stadium, who I've heard from folks that were there that it was just incredible. If you're watching on TV, listening on the radio, or just taking it in, man, I hope that's what you got to do. I hope that's what you were able to do, was soak it in and realize that Indiana football is legit. Because there will be people on the outside, unfortunately, they'll never accept it. They won't. They'll never accept that Indiana football is good. And that's okay, because there's nothing you can do to change that. They are closed-minded people who don't want to see Indiana succeed. They're jealous, and they won't accept it. And that's fine. For the folks that are going to say that Illinois is not all that good, that's false. That's wrong. Were they 100% healthy? No, they weren't. But you know who was? Luke Altmaier. You know who was? Their defensive front. You know who was? Brett Bielema. And yet, Indiana still drops 63 on their head and shuts them out in the second half and gives up just 10 points on pretty much only one good drive. That's what Indiana did in this game. And they flexed their muscles, and you got to do it in front of the entire country. Isn't that awesome to think about? I was thinking about this throughout Sunday afternoon and just playing the pictures over in my head of the fans in the stadium and then seeing people react online. It's like, man, that Indiana team's actually pretty good. Wow, maybe it wasn't a fluke last year. Saw somebody say Indiana this year is the Indiana of last year, or however they phrased that. Like, this year's Indiana's team is this year's Indiana's team. I think that's how somebody phrased it, to where it was, Indiana last year was the surprise of college football, was the Cinderella story, was the baby or whatever. This year's Indiana's team is this year's Indiana's team. And I can't remember who said that, so I didn't say it. I'm not taking credit for that. I saw it on social media, and I think that's awesome. And again, this segment is a lot more of just really soaking in what you were able to do on Saturday and really building on that throughout the rest of this football season, right? You get to build on the fact that you have the fourth best odds in the conference to make it to the college football playoff, that you legitimately right now have the 15th best odds to win the national championship for Indiana football. And how about this, folks? We talked about it in the live show on Saturday night. How about Fernando Mendoza? How about the fact that your transfer quarterback from California, of all places, comes to Indiana, lights it up the first 4 games of the year? He was second in betting odds on FanDuel to win the Heisman Trophy after the game on Saturday night. Guess where he stands right now as of Monday? As of Monday, Fernando Mendoza on FanDuel.com is the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. He is the betting favorite right now through 4 games to win the Heisman Trophy. And I think he absolutely deserves it. He absolutely deserves it. Are there other dudes out there? Sure. But Fernando Mendoza is that dude. Fernando Mendoza is a dog. And his stats on Saturday absolutely prove it. Final stats for Fernando Mendoza: 21 of 23, 267 yards, and 5 touchdowns. 21 of 23, 267 through the air, 5 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. He continues to take care of the football. This Indiana team continues to take care of the football. And they continue to just beat the crap out of teams when it matters the most. Saturday was special, man. And we're going to soak it in. And we're going to relish in that. And we're going to remember that day for the rest of our lives. But now you got to move on. Now you got to focus up for Iowa, who you're a 6.5 point favorite last time I looked. I said hammer it. If you are into that thing on FanDuel, you can jump on that. Indiana 6.5 here. As I'm recording, I'm going to go look this up and see if this has changed. That was as of Sunday morning. Let me see. I've got FanDuel pulled up right here. I'm going to look. Let's see. There's USC, Illinois. Oh, that's fascinating. USC is 6.5 point favorite over Illinois, which is still a top 25 matchup, by the way. USC favored 6.5 versus Illinois. Believe that's in Champaign, so keep that one in mind. Indiana is, it's already jumped a point. Yep, people jumped on it. It's now a 7.5 point favorite for Indiana on the road against Iowa. So you've got to take care of business there. You absolutely do. You've got to go and try to compete with Oregon. You've got to beat the Marylands and the UCLAs and the Michigan States of the world, which you're so much better than. Then you have that trip against Michigan or against Penn State. Then you got to play a Wisconsin team. Can we accept the fact that Luke Fickell's probably not going to be coaching in that game? I think I'm going to end up being right on that one, but that's okay. And then you got to play Purdue at the end. And so a lot of football to be played, man. But this was more about just really soaking in and hoping that you got to enjoy it as an Indiana fan. But now we get back to work, and now we have more to do and more to accomplish. And the goals for this Indiana team have really, really swelled. All right, coming up here, Locked On Hoosiers, we will flip over to basketball because the weekend was so big for football. It helped you on the basketball recruiting side. We talk about a big commitment in 2027 right after this. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Look, NFL, I'm not the best bettor, but I still try. I still try to pick winners. I picked a couple of games yesterday, and if you were able to predict that there were going to be 2 blocked field goals returned for touchdowns, like 7-game winners in the last 3 minutes or something stupid like that. I mean, excuse me. If you were able to predict that and you were on FanDuel, you probably won a little money yesterday. But don't worry, you still got Monday Night Football tonight that you can be a part of. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet today. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home, whether it's the local sports bar packed on game days, like they were in Bloomington on Saturday, or the coffee shop that knows your order by heart, the corner deli that's been serving your community for decades. These are the places that bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood is able to thrive. Look, there's nothing better to me sitting in the local sports bar, watching TVs on Saturdays or Sundays. Heck, even a good Thursday night football game down there, right? Pitcher of beer, some nice wings or some bar food, man. But you want the home feeling touch, and that's what businesses on Square are going to give you, okay? Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy that you did. Square, we'll see you in the neighborhood. All right, final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you again for making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. And to all my everydayers, you are the best, and we appreciate you. And we hope that you've noticed some of our extra coverage that we've been trying to give you and pumping out a little bit more content here on Locked On Hoosiers. But as we wrap up today's show, we flip over to basketball and talk about a little recruiting because we told you there were several big commits several big recruits rather on campus this past weekend for Indiana basketball and head coach Darren DeVries. And we talked about why it was so important to get kids on campus for this particular weekend, right? Because of all the hype and all the buzz and eventually all the celebration and excitement that the weekend ended up being, right? And so much so that you pick up a huge commitment in the class of 2027. Yes, the class of 2027. I know it's still an extra year away. It's not the upcoming recruiting class, but you're building for the future with the next recruiting class. And it's a kid that we were starting to talk about it and really work him into our coverage here on Locked On Hoosiers, but his story really started to pick up steam in the last month or two. And Indiana was honestly the ones who ramped up their want of him, and he kind of ramped up his want of Indiana as well. Chase Branham is the 2027 point guard, 4-star out of the state of Missouri. He's ranked 33rd according to 247, pretty much a top 50 player no matter where you look. Any of the composites or anything like that. 6'4". Some say 6'5". I think he's closer to 6'4", 175 pounds out of the state of Missouri. Chase Branham, the 4-star point guard, has committed to play for the Indiana Hoosiers. He committed this weekend when he was here around the team and the coaches in Bloomington. He said, yeah, this is a place that I want to be. This is a place that he feels he can thrive. And when you turn on the film of this kid, man, he's electric. He is an incredibly talented shooter. He's very, very quick with the basketball, but he does have a lot to learn. His skill set is shooting. Just going to be really honest with you. He's a shooter. And I think that gives him the opportunity, if he is unable to establish more of a ground and pound game. And what I mean by that is get to the lane and finish at the rack and bring extra defenders and draw fouls or be able to dish it out to his teammates and things. He has a lot of that to still work on, but he still has some time in high school to work on those things too. If he's unable to do those things in college, I think he could end up being a shooting guard, to be quite honest with you. He is a stop and pop, park your feet, wait for the ball, and let it fly as soon as you get it. That's what Chase Branham does. He can shoot off the bounce, he can shoot in transition, or he's just a catch and shoot maestro. That's what Chase Branham is able to do. A guy that, has averaged all the numbers, all the shooting percentages. You just turn on the film and that's what he's got. Again, his handles are fine. His defense is He's 6'4", 175 if he's lucky and maybe got weights in his shoes, okay? He's going to have to put on some beef. He's going to have to keep developing his game. But just as a pure scorer, this dude has got it. And he will fit the Darren DeVries system perfectly when he gets here. And that's why he decided to commit. That's why he's coming to Indiana, because he trusts what this system is going to do, what this team is going to look like. And I think that he will absolutely thrive when he gets here. So 6'4", 175 pounds, Chase Branham. Again, he's a 4-star. You beat out the likes of Creighton, Iowa, Tennessee was in there at one point. Duke was in there at one point. And there was one more team that was interested in him. Oh, that's right, Purdue. Purdue wanted him too, and he decided to choose the Indiana Hoosiers. And so there you go. There's a big win for Darren DeVries and the Hoosiers, by far his biggest commit so far. He's only got the 2, and this one's the biggest one other than Prince Alexander Moody. But now what you got to do is keep him committed, right? Unfortunately, that's the world that we live in. You got to keep him committed with Chase Branham, but I think he will. I feel pretty good about this one. And I also feel pretty good about what 2026 commits or recruits are going to be committing soon. And I still feel good. That you're going to get some commitments very soon. I did call that Chase Branham could commit this weekend. Just want to throw that out there. Not that I want to toot my own horn or anything, but it is exciting that you land him. Excited for the future with Chase Branham, and also just excited for recruiting in general, because pretty much right now through the end of October is when it's going to ramp up. You're going to know really quickly if DeVries and company have done their job or if they've swung and missed on several big names. So we'll keep up with that right here on Locked On Hoosiers, but we are out of time. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for supporting this show, however you do it, and just being a fan of Indiana, being a fan of me, being a fan of this show, man. We're having so much fun and we're putting in a ton of work, and I hope that you're enjoying it and seeing what we're doing for you as much as we can. Okay, subscribe to the YouTube channel, leave your thoughts down in the YouTube comments. And on audio, follow us and turn on your notifications, okay? We are back tomorrow, Hoosier fans, for another episode. So until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.